My initial impressions were I thought it was a great concept, first of all. Is it an interesting story, right? That's just sort of the baseline of anything that interests me. Is the story good? So I love sci-fi and don't get a chance to do it a lot, so that was a big bonus for me. I had such a great time working with Roland on Midway that it was an easy yes to say yes. Also, I felt like this role was different for me in roles that I've done lately. But my first impressions of the script were that I love that it took this huge. I love that it took this huge disaster film idea, but really based it around one of the most interesting and controversial questions of evolution versus creation. And so for me, that was really fascinating to me. I like when you can use a movie, even a big splashy popcorn movie, to at least just drop something into the conversation. I think that's really fascinating. It's hard to sort of fit this into the Roland canon, other than yes, it's this big epic movie that he knows this space. He's not afraid of the scope of a movie. No set or piece is too big. Like he rolls with it. That's actually when he gets really into it, because he's got such a vision in his head that we're all trying to just hold on and figure out where he's going with it. But I think above all, the one thing that if I can relate this to the other Roland movies that speak to me are, yes, you can have this big spectacle, but you really have the human emotion that drives the story, because you have to have people that you care about. And that is something that you see a through line with his movies, especially the ones that become these big successful films, that because they can cross over just from being a big popcorn movie to go, I really loved that performance, I loved that character, I felt so much for that character. So he really likes to bring out that emotion. So from that perspective, you really do see these different storylines that each have such a tremendous amount of heart. The nuts and bolts of the movie are the moon is coming towards us. We don't know why, and it's left up to the astronauts who have an experience, me being one of them, that 15 years ago was up there and saw something crazy extraterrestrial, and caused a fellow astronaut of mine we lost him. So I carry that guilt, being the captain of the ship. And over the course of the film, as the moon is coming towards us, we don't quite know what the moon is. Is it a planet? Is it something built? If it is, who built it? And what is this impending doom threatening the world, our world? So, astronauts, even though I'm out of it, astronauts have to go back in and figure out what is the problem, and all is not as it seems once we get up there. That's the cleanest version I can tell of a script that's very long. Present day Brian is in a pretty terrible place. Jobless. He's trying to hold on to his past and of his knowledge of being an astronaut. Clearly a very smart person, but probably a little more of a rogue scientist than a typical by the book guy, which is how he differs from Halle's character. She still has a government job, and he resents that, and he carries a lot of guilt for what happened at this failed mission several years ago, which got him out of NASA. And you see his marriage is broken, his relationship with his son is broken. Then you see his son get into some trouble. Brian wants to do anything he can to help his son, but he just doesn't have the capability. Everybody that's given him favors, they're running out. Like he's trying and failing over and over and over, and has a lot of personal problems and demons that he can't overcome. I know I'm a father of two boys. Mine are younger than Sonny in this film, But I think every parent can relate to that. I think the thing about Sonny and his relationship with his father is, no matter what the reasons are that your dad is AWOL, doesn't matter to a kid. Just doesn't matter. So you understand Sonny's point. You weren't there. You're not around. And I think and he's constantly just let him down because Brian has his own issues that he's fighting through. So Sonny can't see the good for what he does, and that's part of being Sonny too. Sonny is not he's not the most straight-laced kid either, and that's probably a little of his dad that's rubbed off on him, and that's why they butt heads. And so this entire film for them is trying to just find how they can communicate, and how their relationship can move forward. To me, that's one of the most interesting relationships in the film, is Brian's to Casey's. And Casey, so John Bradley plays Casey Houseman, and he is this very alternative, some would say wacky scientist who, holds meetings in hotel ballrooms, and not that there's anything wrong with that. But he's, yes, his theories are very outlandish. The reality is, Brian is he's the only, in our movie, Brian is the only one who has seen what's up there and what is this impending threat, because his other partner, Marcus, spoiler alert, does not make it in the first few minutes of the film. And Halle's character does not see it, so she has to trust my word, and she doesn't at the time. And that is a major source of contention between those two. So Brian harbors this secret of what he saw up there, which he couldn't even wrap his head around because it was some alien life form, and it was horrible and terrifying and something he's never seen. So naturally, when no one else on earth can believe him or doesn't want to believe his stories, the guy that's giving the most outlandish theories, which is KC, there's just something there that it's like, you know what? I bet this guy would believe me. That's the crux of this, of Brian, is no one believes him, no one trusts him, because it does seem so outlandish. And it doesn't help that he always shoots his mouth off and shoots himself in the foot. So that's not helping the cause. And I think he carries a lot of resentment towards Fowler, towards Halle's character, because, and I can't knock it, she wanted to continue on with her career, and they moved up in the world, and he, felt really betrayed by that. If anything, I came in with too much knowledge of what it's like to act like you're floating, because I did that for an entire movie, which helped, I will say. But yeah, it's always tough. It's always tough to pull that off, because you're concerned. It's not even the movement of getting through something. It's when you're talking and doing a scene, and where you're, any astronaut will tell you your hands naturally fly here. Of course, if I did this in our scene right now, it would feel sort of odd. So you're trying to find that balance between what looks right and what's realistic, and we're not making a documentary and all of that kind of stuff. But it for sure is a much different feel. All these apparatus, the apparati, all these things that we use to try to pull this off, it can be pretty difficult. I didn't do too much training in that, although the spacesuit we did about an afternoon in trying to get used to, because they are incredibly cumbersome and heavy. And my apologies to the people who make them, but they are not great to wear. What to say about Halle Berry? For me, one of the things coming into this that I felt like was going to be difficult is Brian being very, very angry with her, because she has such a warm and welcoming face, to say the least, that you want to get along. You want there to be chemistry, and which of course there is, but it's so, if anything, trying to work in how we were angry with each other became more became harder to do, because naturally we're both, I feel like she's a very giving actress. I feel like I'm a giving actor, so you want to be there for that person, whereas these two characters are just done at the beginning and don't want to deal with it. So if anything, I'm fighting against your instinct to be like, oh, it's Halle Berry, I've always wanted to work with you, this is going to be so fun. Then it's like, oh no, I have to tell you I don't like you or trust you right now. So that was, I guess, a little bit of a journey. There is a wonderful thing that films can do, no matter if they're a tiny independent movie or a huge spectacle, which is engage in conversation, which is can make you think. Maybe it can change the way that you look at a certain subject. Maybe it can open your mind, even if it's not some heart-wrenching drama, even if it's a big, fun, splashy spectacle. And I think this movie can do that, and does that in a couple different ways. I think it does bring up the fact that, and it's no secret with the creation of AI and the worries of machines rising against you. I mean, Terminator dealt with it, but there is an increasing fear that is very real. You know, I think art imitates life, and I think that in the science community, I think that is a legitimate fear of, if we create something so much that takes over, that has such power with our increasingly technological society, what does that mean? So this movie raises that.